have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dreams some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many areas of our daily lives and is responsible for so many of the problems that we have. And we have a little discussion here about what we can do about such things, what has gone wrong and what the causes are, and what we can do to make things better. And if you want to join the discussion, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296 if you'd like to participate in the program tonight. We're going to be talking about the events of the week, and we're also going to be talking about the current series of articles that I have going on my manipulative-people.com blog site, where you can find many articles, timely articles on character disturbance, on the folks in your life that are driving you kind of nuts and have made you feel a little crazy because you know darn well there's something not quite right about them, but sometimes they make you think that there's something wrong with you, and they have you scratching your head, just wondering what the reality is. We'll be talking about that just a little bit, as well as the current series of articles running on my blog related to what I call the fifth commandment of sound character development, a takeoff on some topics that I first introduced in my book, Character Disturbance, and will be putting out in a full book format, hopefully at the end of this summer, at the end of next month, the 10 Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life. And another book with my wonderful co-author, Dr. Kathy Armistead. So be looking for that, hopefully not too long from now. But as I said earlier in the program, if you want to join the discussion, today's program is going to be a little free-ranging, and we have plenty of time for discussion. So if you want to join in, perhaps you have a question you want to ask me, perhaps you have a situation you'd like to share, perhaps you just have a general comment that you'd like to make. that you think the audience would be interested in. In any case, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Well, I'm just back in front of the microphone once again from another tour, another workshop tour. And once again, my apologies to all of you who have either written me directly or through my blog site have tried to contact me and emailed me. I am at least 4 weeks behind now in my typical replies to emails. And I know that that's not completely unprecedented for me, but it has been a little unusual lately. I have been just flat out overwhelmed, not just with mail, but with time constraints, because I've been doing so much traveling. And boy, travel is not what it used to be. From bags getting mishandled to damaged goods to items getting lost. I was on my way to one venue, bringing with me the books that I have to vend, and the airlines simply couldn't find them. They said they were in the airport, or that they... No, I take that back. It wasn't... It's even more insidious than that. First, they said that they knew that the packages were taken off the plane, but they had no idea what happened to them after that. They didn't know if they were put back on a plane, sent someplace else, if they were misplaced, if they were sitting by the dock and never loaded on the conveyor. They had no idea. All they knew is they weren't on the plane that they came on. And so... to make a long story short, an hour and a half later, they located these materials, which I needed for my workshops. And then by the time I got to my first location for my first presentation the next day, it was already the wee hours of the morning. And believe it or not, I have to arise at about 4:30 a.m. to begin the process of preparing for my workshops. So I can tell you that I was not firing on all 8 cylinders for my first workshop the day after. But at any rate, I think the audiences appreciated the workshop. At least they seemed to indicate that they did. And we were in Madison, Wisconsin. We were in Downers Grove, Illinois, just outside Chicago. And, while we were in Downers Grove, I had a really nice experience. I got to visit with some relatives that I haven't seen in a while. And if either of you are listening tonight, thank you so much for the experience. It was great to visit with you, and my nephew, who runs a publication, a trade publication, and who I haven't seen in a while, was gracious enough to treat myself and a cousin that I haven't seen for a long time to a great dinner at a wonderful restaurant nearby the First Host Hotel. So I thank you for that. If you're listening tonight, Scott, you know who you are. Appreciate it very much, and it was great to see you. But I also went to Bloomington, Illinois. So we had 3 venues in this latest tour, and I was more than grateful to get home. I don't know how many of you have had the misfortune to travel through a great deal of turbulence on an airplane, but it is probably the more frightening of experiences. These days there's more and more of what we call CAT, clear air turbulence. Uh, a lot having to do with climate change, with the warming of the Earth's atmosphere, and the fact that clouds are higher in the sky, and there are more pockets of warm air clashing with pockets of cold air. So when the planes go through these pockets, you get this turbulence even in clear air, even when you're above the bulk of the cloud cover in what appears to be clear blue sky. But we went through a really, really rough patch. And the entire time, I usually don't get sick or anything like that, but the entire time I was a bit queasy, and I was thinking to myself, Lord, just get me home, please, if you can, if you will, if you please. And fortunately, we did make it an hour and a half late, as it always sees to be the case. You know, we plan these tours. They're very well planned, but it all has to work like clockwork in order for everything to go off as planned. And unfortunately, these days, when it comes to air travel, nothing works like clockwork anymore. There's always a delay. There's always a circumstance. And the circumstance for us on my way back home was we didn't have a crew. Isn't that amazing? There was just no crew. One pilot was coming from one flight that had been delayed, and another pilot was coming from another flight which had been delayed. And the delay was supposed to take a total of 10 minutes before both pilot and co-pilot were available to us. Well, an hour and 15 minutes later, we were boarding, and an hour and a half later, we were finally taking off. So, nonetheless, I was very grateful to be home. It's only for a few weeks now before I take off again. And then about a week, or actually a couple of days after I get back from my next tour, my wife and I and a group of friends are going to take our first trip, the first time that I will have been there, to the Holy Land. A place that I've always wanted to go for many reasons. And a place that I've always had a bit of trepidation about going to because of the political climate, and also because not just of the climate and the tenseness in the area, but also the many, many years of injustice on both sides. There are no innocent parties in this. No innocent parties whatsoever. So I actually wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight because I think it relates to character matters. I think it relates to character matters a lot. And it shows the importance of character. You know, at the beginning of the program, you hear this theme song, and you hear it at the close, too. This patriotic piece that my wife and I wrote that speaks to the issue of where America's greatness really lies, not so much in her economic power or military might, but in her character, but in the character of her people who honor her best ideals and upon whom the very survival of freedom depends. Freedom and character, as I've said many times on this program, are completely interdependent. You give people with a solid moral compass the maximum freedom to do as they choose, and great things happen. But you give folks without principle license, and horrible things ensue. And we're seeing that increasingly, unfortunately, in our day and time. Too many people without a sufficient moral compass, a lot of permissiveness and a lot of moral relativism, tons of freedom, and unfortunately, people take license. And as a result, our institutions are crumbling. Our time-tested institutions are crumbling. And our overall character is decaying. What Donald Trump is advocating to make our country great again is not what would make it great again. As de Tocqueville actually never said, America is great when it is good, or it would be great because it is good. And when it ceases being good, it ceases being great. It's as simple as that. And we have a lot of work to do in that department. But as I was saying before, I've had mixed feelings my whole life about going to this place that three faiths regard one particular spot as central. As a matter of fact, they regard it as a unique place on the face of this planet. And it's just been mind-boggling to me my entire life. How much emotion, how much passion, and how much discord has arisen throughout history over this piece of property. And I knew for much of my life that I would eventually make this pilgrimage. But I am apprehensive, not just for safety's sake, but because I have such deep concerns for the injustices that have been perpetuated on both sides of the conflict for so long. It troubles me greatly. It troubles me greatly because within my background I have borne too much first-hand witness to the effects of this conflict. I've seen, for example, what religious fundamentalism and extremism can do. And I know the effects. My maternal grandparents emigrated from a part of the world beset with terror from Islamic terrorism at the close of World War I. It was the decline of the Ottoman Empire. And in Armenia, a mass genocide was being carried out, one that has never been recognized formally. In their pride, the Turkish government refuses to acknowledge the genocide. 1.5 million people exterminated. When a people dared to reclaim their historic land and to embrace their historic faith. 1.5 million people, that's a genocide by anybody's standards. And my maternal grandmother was one of the survivors. She was only a survivor because she was not of age where she could freely convert. She was just young enough that she had to watch while her entire family was butchered before her. And she survived in the fields, eating grass, until she was taken in by some Christian missionaries, some sisters, some nuns, taken to a convent, an orphanage, basically. It turned into an orphanage. And later was brought to this country by my grandfather, who had been conscripted into the Turkish army. And he has some stories to tell. I see we have a call coming in. I'm going to go ahead and take this call. Hello and welcome to Character Matters. Hello? Well, it seems that that call has dropped. So I'll continue with the story here. If the caller should call back in, I'll try to merge the call in one more time. But what I was getting at here is that I've heard stories that would just chill you to the bone. The horrors of persecution, the horrors of genocide, all in the name of the Almighty, when in fact there was nothing but vile hatred and this endless quest by some folks to assert dominance over others. And when these individuals set eyes on America, when they hit these shores, and they got a taste of freedom, especially religious freedom, especially freedom from persecution for one's beliefs. When they got a taste of that, the gratitude within them was so incredible that they literally kissed the ground here. And they assimilated. They didn't readily adopt many of the moral standards that they saw that they thought were lacking. But they adopted this country and its ways. And they valued the freedom they have, even though they didn't agree with the way some folks abused that freedom. They nonetheless really valued that freedom because they knew all too well the price paid for so much of our history in so many other places in the world. They knew the steep, steep price paid where there isn't freedom, where there is autocratic rule, especially where there is theocratic rule. And that is the case in still much of the world today. The free world is a very small pocket, and those that enjoy it, unfortunately, have oftentimes been so abusive of it that we now have a situation in so many parts of our wonderful free country where human life doesn't seem to matter very much. at all. There are cities in our country where a human life can be extinguished for as little as $20, and any cab driver in the city can tell you who to get to do the job. It's a sad, sad statement. Another sad statement is what we are offering the public, the general public, as the custodians of our liberty, the guardians of our Constitution, and the leaders for our country by the two major parties. I can tell you I haven't decided whom I'm going to vote for. I am going to vote. I always consider the possibility of not voting, but that just never seems like an appropriate solution. I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, but I can tell you with certainty that I will not vote for either of the two major candidates. I don't know which of the other minor candidates I will vote for, but it will be one of them. I wish that one of those minor candidates had picked a more appropriate running mate, but I'm not going to get into that. But the reason I'm not going to vote for any of either of the two major candidates is strictly the character issue. I can't bring myself to vote for anyone of poor character. I don't care about the practicalities when it all comes down to it. What really matters on the job, what really matters to us, is someone's integrity, how trustworthy they are, how true to the values that they need to embrace they are. Not the values they espouse and then renege on, but the values that they truly need to embrace and how true they are to them, how committed they are to them. Unfortunately, all too many times, we are faced with these opportunists and these power cravers who will say anything or do anything to get power. And yes, they might do some good accidentally sometimes. But I can just hardly stand it when especially someone who could easily just tell the truth won't. This is what bothers me particularly about one candidate. When the truth would do just fine. I've talked about this on my blog. I've written articles about it. I talk about it in my books, In Sheep's Clothing, my book, Character Disturbance, in the Judas Syndrome, and in How Did We End Up Here? All four of my books, I talk about it. About what we call pathological lying, lying for the sake of lying, lying that makes very little sense. And actually, it makes a lot of sense when you really look at what's behind it with the disturbed character. I mentioned this in one of my training workshops. I talked about the sense that this senseless kind of pathological lying actually does make. I gave an example, too, from one of the candidates, as a matter of fact. And by the way, they're in my book, equally reprehensible. I'm maybe one slightly more. It's a useless comparison because this is just a horrible choice that we face. But when I look at these episodes of what appears inveterate or just simply senseless pathological lying, you look a little deeper, you find that there really is a method to it. And it's always about maintaining position and image. And it's always about maintaining a position of advantage. It's always about personal power and position. That's what it's always about. And the example I gave at the workshop is when Hillary Clinton misspoke. She probably should have, and she knew she should have, chosen a better set of words when she was trying to make the case, trying to seduce basically an audience of folks who had been disadvantaged economically in Virginia because of the current policies with regard to energy and the push toward cleaner burning fuels, and therefore the so-called war against coal. And in this area of the country, there were many folks in the mining industry who lost their jobs as coal fell on hard times. And in order to seduce them, Hillary was playing to her ex-husband's popularity when he was president and the nature of the economy when he was president, because he just so happened to preside over the dot-com boom. And she misspoke, and she said that she was going to put Bill in charge of fixing the economy after she was elected. And she added to that she was going to do that because he precisely knew how to do it. And he had proved that when he was president. Well, a reporter or two thought it was a little unusual, if not downright odd, that the to-be elected official or would-be elected official would turn over the responsibility for handling the economy to someone who was not elected, when in fact that's why supposedly people were going to be electing her. Now, she could have explained this any number of ways, but she simply denied she said it. And then when the evidence was presented to her in the form of a videotape in front of the reporters who showed her herself saying these very things, she still denied that she said it, which led some to wonder if she was in some kind of state of denial, or if she were, in fact, to some degree delusional, like many people have thought Donald Trump to be from time to time. Well, in fact, these inveterate liars are not delusional. They're not in a psychological state of denial. When they lie, and they lie so senselessly, even when the truth would seem just fine, it's all about maintaining the position of advantage and the upper hand, and maintaining the position of dominance and not getting in that one down position. It was all about not affording the reporter and therefore the public who would see the reports on TV, it was all about not affording them that gotcha moment. You see, you misspoke. You shouldn't have done that. It was a mistake. It was all about simply not allowing that. And that's why the lie. And if a person will go to that length to maintain an image, then I've got a problem. Because we don't know who they really are. You can't trust them. It's that simple. So it just breaks my heart that we're facing what we're facing. The reprehensible and the even more reprehensible. What a choice. And what a reflection on the character of our times and the character crisis that has created the climate of our times. It's a perfect example, unfortunately, a perfect but sad example of what we've been talking about on this program since the beginning. Well, I know I launched into that for quite some time. I just feel strongly about it. Yeah, I want to come back to the issue I was talking about earlier because I'm going to be taking this trip. And I kind of got off on a tangent here, but I was talking about my upcoming trip to the Holy Land, and I want to get back to that because there are some issues there, as I was mentioning earlier. But if you want to join the conversation, or if you have something you'd like to chime in on, or just you have a question to ask, maybe you even have a politically charged issue that you want to sneak in, or maybe you want to challenge me on something. Perhaps you have a different opinion about what it is we face this time around in the way of the choices we have before us as to who's going to lead us and what kind of character we should demand in the person who should lead us. In any case, if you want to participate or have a question you want to ask, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. I'll be happy to take your call. Well, I was saying earlier about my uneasiness with this trip to the Holy Land. I've always had mixed feelings about it. I've always yearned to go because I've always yearned to see firsthand for myself where it all began. And I'll tell you what, the biggest reason for that, interestingly, has to do with kind of how I'm hardwired. I am such a visually oriented person, and I have such a visually processing mind that, and my wife will tell you this. Yeah, if we go someplace on a trip where we've never been before, within an instant, I'm mapping the whole place in my head. I get this visual map going, and I can picture where everything is in relationship to one another. And if I go back to a place, even after, 5, 10, 15 years, I can still navigate myself around because I have this visual map in my head. That's just how my brain works. I'm very visual. And even when I hear the stories that I was always told and that I studied about the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth, I get these images in my head. And so I've always been curious to actually see firsthand the landscape, so to speak. But I've also had some very deep and troubled feelings about how 3 great religions could spring up in an area so full of conflict and so perpetuating in conflict at the hands of these 3 religions, and for so long. It's just always bothered me. And I think it's a character issue, ultimately, because I can't imagine I can't imagine any of the big players behind the strife, the big fosterers of the strife. I can't imagine any of them really seriously embracing any of the wholesome messages within their so-called professed faith. All I really see is this endless quest for dominance. My way rules. You are subject to it. That kind of mentality. We will have our way, and you will conform. You will acquiesce. And this kind of oppression has been the story of this land for forever. This deeply troubled, divided, and so-called holy land. Oh, and that's another thing. Can somebody tell me this land is in the middle of semi-desert? This area of the world has mountainous fertility and some degree of vegetation on one side of it, and then on the other side of it, vast deserts, and it's right smack dab in the middle. It's mostly desert. An oasis in the desert, and not much of an oasis at that. But can someone tell me, in this arid land, at what grain of sand? Because there are many billions of grains of sand in this desert landscape. At what grain does the holiness of the Holy Land end? Where's that borderline? We call it the Holy Land, this land full of conflict, full of human oppression and disregard, full of competing values, ideologies, competing belief systems. At what grain of sand does its so-called holiness end, and the rest of the mundane world begin? We are one world, whether we recognize it or not. All of the boundaries we have drawn, all the boundaries we've drawn between one another, they're all artificial. They're of our creation. We've set them up. It's part of the program. We're wired that way. I don't believe that we were made perfect and then we made things imperfect. We are who we are. We have been engineered by nature as we are. We're capable of evolving to a higher order because we have these intellects and we have this consciousness that has evolved. I see we have the call coming in again. I'm going to try and take it. Hello and welcome to Character Matters.
Good evening, Dr. Simons. I was listening, and I just want to tell you I appreciate so much what you say, so much.
Well, thank you.
Because people don't want to speak up anymore. Character is not an issue anymore. Truth is not important anymore. Critical thinking, who wants to do it if maybe a position is endangered or something, and you don't. You stand up for the right things, and I appreciate so much.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I try to do that in my little world as well. And right now I have a good friend, and she was horribly abused by both parents. And my breath even is, they were so totally powerful over her. Fortunately, God gave her a good sister and good grandparents, but she wasn't very much with them. And she was abused so much as a child that she has wounds still on her back. She was beaten severely by her father, and you probably would have said he was a sociopath. And she said she never told that anybody but me. And so I was like, what do I tell this woman that she can heal? I only have to, and she said, God, let me die. That was her only prayer when she was a child.
Oh my gosh.
It is just beyond imagination. When she told me that, and she cried out to me, and it was like, I had no words anymore. I just want to, and like now with all these debates, and then and she is pro-abortion. I'm not, because she says, I rather have children aborted that they don't have to go through this if they are not wanted.
Yes, yes.
And that is a horrible statement too. Then please give them up for adoption.
Yes, yes.
But it's hard to say anything. Anyway, I also enjoy your comments to the Holy Land, because it's so true. It's conflict, it's terror, what happens there, and then it's the Holy Land.
Yes, and it's unfortunate, but the truth is not being told on either side.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the big lie has been perpetuated for so long. That's why I have some trepidation. I've always had a yearning, as I mentioned before, to make this pilgrimage, but I've always had some real conflict within me raging because of the historic injustice. And not on just one side, the injustice on both sides that has been going on for so long.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually thinking that I'm meant to be doing this at this time in my life, and that maybe there's going to be a message in it for me. I'm really praying and contemplating this whole journey deeply, and I'm going to be looking forward to sharing my experience with the audience when I come back.
Yes, that will be wonderful, and my prayers are with you as well for your safety.
Well, thank you so much. I was just going to ask you, so thank you for offering in advance. I need all the prayers I can get.
Yes, exactly, because we need protection from above, and always, because with
your friend. Remember, this revolution that we need in our thinking to restore character, we're only going to do this one heart at a time. So, give yourself some credit for any of the little efforts that you've made with your friend. I know we don't have the power to make miracles, but we can through our own example and through our own goodness and through our own goodwill and purity of intention, we can impact the hearts of people, and we will only get people to a different way of thinking and a different way of acting when we have converted their hearts. And so, do your best to positively influence your friend with your own goodness and your own generosity, and then I'm afraid you have to leave the rest to God.
Always, yes. Yeah. And that is how should I say, wonderful that we can do that. Otherwise, sometimes the burden would be so heavy, it would crush us.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
So yes, and I just try the best I can with the help of God. That's it.
Well, and don't discount that. Don't discount that, because that's what we have the power to do. And by the way, that's what we're commanded to do. We're commanded to do just that, to love to the best of our ability. Beyond that, we have no power. But that is actually considerable power, and we should never consider any of those efforts wasted. They're all meritorious. So you do the best you can, and then leave the rest. You have to let the rest go.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah. So there is positive power and there's negative power, right?
Yes.
Power obsession and power servant.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
Exactly. So thank you. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate. Just listen along, and I really loved it what I heard. So, and I thought I have to tell you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Have now good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, what a nice call. That helps lighten my spirits just a little bit. But the more I contemplate this upcoming journey, the more conflicted I get as the time gets shorter. And for all you in the listening audience, there will be a few programs that will be rebroadcasts of earlier programs, because I will be literally out of the country and unable to broadcast live, unless I can find a way to do it. I just had a thought. It might actually be doable, and it might be very worthwhile to do so. I just don't know if I'm going to have the facility to do it. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Maybe, just maybe, there will be a window of opportunity. But just to prepare you for the possibility, within the next 6 weeks, there may be several occasions on which you will be unfortunately treated to a rebroadcast as opposed to a live program on Character Matters. But we'll just have to play that by ear. For now, we're good to go. We have we're definitely live as far as I know for the next few weeks. Next Sunday will be a bit of a challenge because I've got to find proper internet access. And if I don't, you will again. It's a holiday weekend here in the U.S. It's a Labor Day holiday weekend, and I'm going to be in an area of the country, lake country, doing some fishing and hanging back and enjoying some fish fries. But the internet access is extremely poor there, and I might not have access to sufficient internet to do a live program. So next week is in jeopardy, as is a couple of Sundays past that. So we'll have announcements prior to the program, and check out my blog at manipulative-people.com. Each weekly post will give you some indication about where we are with regard to live broadcasts. Well, we're getting close now to the end of the program. I just want to share a couple of more thoughts with you about this upcoming trip, and then to ask for your thoughts and prayers as I do this. As I said, I've felt in my lifetime many desires to make this pilgrimage, but I've had many qualms too, because of the injustices. And because I'm such a visual person, and because I process everything so much visually, I think that it's time that I see firsthand some things. And I actually hope that I'm going to get a chance to witness, at least in some way, the plight of those oppressed in this historic land. I don't know how or if that will actually happen. I don't know how the situation will be spun, quote unquote, or interpreted by those guiding us on this tour. But I want to see with my own eyes some things, even though I'm very nervous about doing so. And I hope to share with you my experience when I return. So, your thoughts and prayers, please, for a safe and a valuable trip. And prayers for our country in this difficult time where we face an historic choice. And, for the first time, it actually appears, your votes are not necessarily wasted voting for a minor candidate. This might be a real wake-up call. A real wake-up call. There are many, many millions of folks planning to sit this election out because of the horrible choice before us. And the fact is, we do have some other choices. And we could send a really big message. And I've been giving serious thought to something else, too. I'm just going to introduce it for the first time tonight. I've only recently in my life become any kind of political animal, but I am so convinced in the bottom of my soul, I am so convinced in the necessity of rugged independence with regard to political persuasion in this country, because of the absolute betrayal of all the major power players in this country, and precisely because of the power involved, that I've been seriously considering a program dedicated to those independent-minded folks. Matter of fact, I've thought about a declaration of independence, INDEPENDENTS, not CE, but ENTS, independent thinkers, independent-minded folks, independent politically structured folks. Give that some thought. Give that some prayer, too, as well. And tune in again next week for another edition of Character Matters, where we'll again be talking about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time. As our theme song carries us out, remember where our greatness really lies. It's in our character. See you next